What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency Podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. This episode is brought to you by Virtual Intelligence, your premier partner for client-facing and back-office virtual employees. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Sean Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in beautiful Long Island, New York. Sean, how are we doing today?
I am doing great. I got a 16-month-old who's got the flu, so that's always fun. I think it's just this time of year. It's normal for people who have kids, apparently. So getting used to that and pushing through. And I'm excited to talk to Cyrus about how he grew his agency, how he got into the industry, and I'm just looking forward to the conversation, man. How about you? How's everything up
As we
in
always do.
upstate or central New York? I apologize, central New York.
Thank
You
you.
got like 10
Thank you.
feet of
Yeah,
snow, right?
Central. Yes, we have, I think, about 4 or so right now, but it's fantastic. Beautiful outside. What more could you want? As always, Sean, let's just jump right into it. I'm pumped for this because the three of us have never been in the same room together, so that's always exciting. I've been following Cyrus for a while, and he is the CEO and founder of CJ Insurance Group, also the host of the Insurance Producer podcast. Cyrus, thanks for joining us today and making this happen. How are you today?
Hey guys, thanks for having me, man. I am doing good. It's cold and crispy up here in Nebraska, so
Love it.
I can't complain, but I'm not going to.
That's great. So let's just dive right into the Scratch story. Take us back to the early days. I know I've listened to a few different podcasts you've been on where you talk about that, but for the listeners that might be listening to you for the first time, tell us about those early days that you got started, what it was like, how you got started, and then we'll hit the few topics we wanted to.
Yeah, so I've started, I guess, 2 scratch agencies because I started a State Farm pretty much scratched in 2013. I did that for 6 years and then left that in 2019 to go on the independent channel. Starting from scratch, and we still to today have done no acquisitions really. We kind of built it all organically. Scratch agency, man, those are fun. If you want to have a lot of stress, they say either have kids or start a scratch agency. Both of them are pretty much the same. And I've had three kids and 2 scratch agencies now, so I have 5 kids, I guess. I enjoyed it so much, man, especially the second time, because the first time I didn't know any better. I was really young, 23, 24. Second one, I was like 29, and I was in the industry for 60 years. I kind of knew what I was doing, and man, I miss those days. Honestly, man, I would come to the office, and like all we were doing is we were literally writing new business. Like that's so much fun, man. That's one of my favorite parts of the agency and I was in the grind of it with, at the time we had 5 people, all 5 of us, man. That's all we were doing was we were in this room and we were just calling all of our clients, I guess, or clients that were calling us or cold calling or whatever, and trying to get, I had this board, I remember, that had like 42 people that I'm quoting, and I'm trying to figure out the process of how to go around it. But one thing my wife told me before she gave me permission to leave State Farm and go on the independent channel was, Cyrus, you can go do whatever the hell you want, but you're going to be home at 4:30. And if you could do that for me, you can go open up your independent agency. She comes from State Farm as well. Dad was a State Farm agent for 30 years. So she's born in State Farm. She still has problems with me leaving them because she loves them so much. But dude, I would go home at 4:30, get the kids to bed 6:37, from 7 to probably 1 o'clock at night. I'll be on my laptop just writing business to survive, man. But it was so much fun. One of my favorite parts of being in insurance in the last 12 years has been those first years when I kind of got going, because you're young and dumb and you just want to write business. And it's so fun when you close a deal. And I haven't closed a deal in 4 or 5 years because I'm not doing new business. But that's the one thing that I miss the most, is that piece of it.
Yeah, Cyrus, are you glad that you went that route?
Absolutely, man. And then for any agency, like you want to, like we went from 5 employees, we went down to 3 right away. So it was just 3 of us, me and 2 other people.
Mm-hmm.
I have 26 W-2 employees in 4.5 years. And like you can't grow an organization being in the weeds of writing business, because like you either are going to go find people to row the boat with you, or you're rowing the boat, and you can't go do both, right? So best decision we've ever made in my organization was, and I knew it, I said, hey, for 1 year, I'm going to do everything in my power to write new business, to get this going. Once I get it going, my brother Bobby was my right-hand person. I said, hey, man, like, it's your show now. You're going to run it. I'm going to go find people now to bring into the organization, find relationships, real estate agents, mortgage officers, which was our bread and butter. I said, my job now is to go find this many 25 touch bases. And I still do that to today. Every day, that's one of my parts of my job, is talk to 25 different LOs or real estate agents on a daily basis. And that became a part of, and for me at that time was I just go stop by, go build the relationships, and then go find employees. Those were my top two jobs because I wasn't writing new business. But a lot of people, and you guys know this, man, you really get in the weeds of writing new business. And with that comes the service and the client calling you. And now you have to send that over to the service team. It just takes a lot of time for you to direct traffic. And it takes all your day, man. Most of your day is spent into doing those things. So the best thing I ever did was I knew it. A year goes by. May 9th was when I left State Farm, May 9th of 19. May 9th, 2020, I knew I had to put a big thing in my office that said, do not write new business. Do not write new business. And then you look at that every day and you pass on the leads. First couple of months, it was really tough because my LOs and real estate people were like, Cyrus, man, like, I need to talk to you. I'm like, seriously, man, I would love to talk to you, but you need to talk to this person. And I lost a couple of LO relationships. I lost a couple of real estate agents. But if I would have done that, I wouldn't be in the position and the growth that we've had in the last 4 years, 100%.
So there is so much to unpack there that I want to dive into specifically, but take us back to, I want to just say something again that you said of how you missed those early days of the grinding with the 46 people on the wall and all that, because I think a majority of our listeners, Sean, I would say, are probably in that day 1 to 5 year mark, right? So
Yeah.
maybe they're in that first couple of years of, now they just hired the first CSR, looking for the salesperson, right? But take us back to in 2019 when you started CJ. Did you start immediately with staff? You talked about the 5 people in the room. Was that all salespeople that you started with? How did you kind of get started and then get to go to that next level of acquiring salespeople and acquiring the people that you're passing those leads on to?
Yeah. So 5 of us, so there's 9 of us at State Farm. 4 of them left right away. The 5 of us went on the indie channel. 2 of them just, there was too much pressure, whatever. They left within the first 3 to 6. So it was really the 3 of us that really kind of got it going from the independent side of things. And then from there, everybody had responsibilities. Like me and Bobby were the sales engines, and Maggie was our account managers that kind of coordinated the accounts and basically done all the applications and all this stuff, because we had no idea what we were doing because we've never been obviously on the indie channel, and we didn't have anybody that we had direct contracts at the time. It was the easy guys back then to get direct contracts. Now we worked on it for a year. It was a lot easier, I should say. It was so a lot of that took a lot of time. So Maggie kind of handled a lot of that. So our idea was, hey, come on the indie. When we go on the indie channel, 2 of us are going to go build this, write new business, and then Maggie is going to be able to handle the account manager side of things, which is going to really help us because when I think what a lot of people do when they first start is, first of all, they don't know what they're doing, right? So they don't have like guidance. They really are lost, man. And we were lost. But one thing we knew what we need to do, which we had, was a structure and accountability. Like, I know if I talk to 25 people a day, there is no way I'm going to fail. Like, there's just not possible, right? I'm going to pay the bills. So 2 of them left, and there was 3 of us left. And I knew the first year that's probably what it was going to be. Once the year went, the full year was done, that's when we started hiring people at the time. Now, a lot of people are like, Cyrus, how did you have any money? And I'm sure that's going to be a question that's going to come on because you're like, the renewals just came in, right? Like, how did you? I knew that if we don't have people and energy, I couldn't grow. I just couldn't grow because think about it, man. A lot of agencies get stuck in that 3 to 5 agent kind of mark. And then like, it's really difficult for them because they're like, well, if I have to spend money, then this, right? Like if I have to spend money on a new team member, am I going to get the returns? Like none of that stuff. I knew I needed to get to more staff. Like that was a non-negotiable for me because that's the only way to grow. But a lot of teams don't have accountability things in place in their offices to keep those people accountable. So like I knew if I bring somebody on for $3,000 a month, I knew exactly how many calls, how many texts, how many quotes, how much premium they needed to do to pay for themselves. And that was very, very clear for us, right? So for me, I could have gone and brought on 6 agents at the time. I didn't do this. I did it strategically. Every 3 months, we added a new team member, is how ours went. But it was a lot of salespeople we put on first, Stephen. We didn't put on a lot of service people. For the first 2 years, man, we didn't hire anybody on the account manager or service side because it was all new business. And that's the fun part, right? But when I backed out, my job was to keep them accountable. Like if they weren't doing the relationships, calling on these mortgage lenders, real estate agents, like if they weren't doing the activity. And one thing about us that differentiates us from any other agency, I know exactly how many call, how many text, how many live conversations. I know every one of those about every one of my team member every hour of the day. Like we have big TVs in our offices that I know exactly what the team is doing. And that was from day one, even at State Farm. So for me, accountability was really, really, really huge because that's the only way that I know that I'm going to make more money. I know that if they talk to 25 people, that's our base, they're going to make money because 25 turns into this many quotes, this many conversations, this many life conversations. And then how many of those are going to turn? And we know our exact average household premium. So I know they're going to write one person. So like the math makes sense from our standpoint. So it was never hard for us to grow, Stephen, where for a lot of people, but I lost a lot of money too. We struck out on 3 team members in the first 2 years that a lot of people will get discouraged. But if you want to grow $100 million premium agency, you got to find people, man. And you got to invest in your agencies if that's really what you want to do. And the faster you do it, the less complacent you will be because you're going to make a little bit of money as an agent. When 3 years go by, you're going to make a little bit of money. And you're like, man, I can live on 150,000 for a while. I'm just going to kind of coast. That's like cancer. Yeah. Do not do it. So anyways, I went on a tangent a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that gets pointed out.
No, that was so good for newer agents who are just starting. So if you could like bring us back to your first week, like just right when you're starting to do like a lot of your KPIs, right? Like you said 25 touches a day. So what did that, I know you said calls and texts to LOs, but can you dive a little deeper into that? Like how'd you generate the list? Was it all local LOs? Like, what did that kind of look like? Was it any real estate agents? Was there networking involved? I'm kind of just curious to dive a little deeper on that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and we have evolved to a point to where I'll go back to that in just 1 second, but we have evolved in a place to where my job became to go find the LOs and the realtors and the relationships. That was my job.
Okay.
All the team had to do was write the business that came in, right? So all that stuff. So the first year, me and Bobby did all that, and then I stepped out and I said, I'm gonna go find all the leads. I'm gonna funnel it inside of our organization, and then we're gonna basically find team members. So our team members were responsible for making 25 contacts to people that have worked with us in the past that have done what. Obviously we had a pretty large prospect from a State Farm world because we were there for 6 years. We were the 30th best agency in the country. So we obviously had a lot of people that we couldn't call because they were State Farm people because there was a non-solicit. But we had a lot of people that we didn't close at State Farm, and those were all fair games and all the cold calls we had. So from the beginning, we didn't have a lot of our people go call referral partners like loan officers and real estate agents because a lot of people are weary of that, man, especially team members. Like insurance agents, owners have an easier time going to an LO to build the relationship. But team members are a little weary of that at first until they gain some momentum. They learn tips and tricks from us. So at first, they didn't do that, Sean. Their job was to just talk to 25 people a day. That's kind of a minimum, if that makes sense, in our organization. But they only talk to the people that have somewhat connected with our organization. So it's never a cold call, if that makes sense. Because making 25 cold calls, man, sometimes you don't talk to anybody, right?
Yeah.
So there's a difference. Call. So exactly. So what I would say is if you're new into the insurance in general, man, you're going to have to make 100 calls because that's what we were going scratch into State Farm. When I was a scratch at State Farm, I was 24 years old. There was, I think, 3 team members at the time as well. It was 100. Our team had to call 100 people, our producers, 100 people every day because I knew 60% of them won't answer. 40% of them may answer. Out of those, we're only going to get 10% of those that's going to probably let us quote, and we're only going to get one deal. And one deal at State Farm per day was great per producer. right? That we were able to close because State Farm's, you could close it in one call close a lot easier than you can on the independent channel. So the difference is a little bit, but from our standpoint now, ours was only 25, but you as an agency have to figure out what is it for you. Like if you don't know how many people your agents and yourself have to call to talk to somebody, we've got problems. That's the one problem you have to solve right away. And then from there, even if you don't know what your lost and won percentages from quote to close, then that's a problem as well. So if you're an agency owner, you're new, if you don't go backwards and figure those two things out, it's going to be very difficult for you to grow and hire team members because you don't know what to keep them accountable for.
I like that.
So
So
take us.
you go,
Go ahead,
you go,
Sean.
Tifa.
I was just going to say, take us to school. Take us to school on that of how you find out those numbers. I mean, what works for you when finding out those numbers for those new producers?
That's the great question. So we have 13 salespeople. I think that all they do is new business, 13 of them. And here's the beautiful part about it. There's only 2 of them that have only been with us for less than a year. One of them we just hired. One of them in the last year we have hired them. Everybody else have been with me for at least 2 years. The best thing we did was record everything. I mean, you have to understand, we have to figure out our data. If you don't know your data, you're going to be in trouble. And if you could figure that out day one, you're going to be so much better than just basically guessing. Like if I ask anybody, hey, what's your closing percentage? There's now many producer or agencies that'd be like, oh, I have a 37% closing percentage. Okay, what's your producer's closing percentage? Like I have no idea. So what we do is if there are new team members, right? Now our organization is, we call it a hot organization versus a cold organization. Hot organization is you're calling people that have worked with you in some capacity. They had business with you at one point. They know you through Facebook, whatever, right? There's people that have been in touch with our organization in the last 11 or 12 years that I have been in the business. So ours is not cold. So cold versus warm is completely different. I want you guys to understand this. So there's a reason my guys have only calling 25 people a day, because 20 of them are answering. 20 of them are saying, yes, I want to do business with you, or I don't want to do business with you, because everything is warm in our organization, because we have, I think we did the math, 33,000 people that are not a part of our organization, meaning that they're not one of our clients, but they're there in some capacity. We have talked to them in the past and all that stuff. So the way you figure out, first of all, is, are you a warm organization or a cold organization? If you're a cold organization, right, what you're going to basically have to do is law of large numbers, man. Take 2 months and just cold call 100 people a day and figure out exactly what it is for you. And then you pass it on. If you're a warm organization, same thing, because you can ask other organizations, but if I told you my closing percentage from a call to close is 37%, your number will not be 37% because our leads are completely different than yours. Our markets are different, right? So from a new agent perspective, if you don't do it for your own organization, if you go on IAOA or other places, people are like, hey, like, what are you guys using for closing percentage and all that stuff? Everybody has different answers, you know? And like, it's really difficult for you to follow other people's. One other question comes on. When do you find a service person? When do you hire up to 2 million in premium? You hire a service person. If I hired 2 million a service person, I would have like 18 service people that handle I wouldn't have any salespeople, you know? So for every organization, it's completely different. So I don't want to go around and kind of just take you into this thing and say, not give you an answer, Sean, or Steven, but I would say, man, every organization, it's gotta be your own. And the beautiful thing you can do is you have time to figure it out.
Yeah.
And your new agency, your new agent, you're going to do it. And when you do it, you understand your numbers. Then you tell your salespeople as they keep coming on, do it themselves. So for us, for example, we have 13 agents. 11 of them have been with me for 2 years. And I can go in and put June 2023. How many calls did this person make? Out of those, how many did they close? How many of those did they lose? And why did they lose it? So when we call them again, we're going to be able to win them. So we track all this stuff, which makes it so much easier for an organization like us versus a new agent that has no idea what's going on. But we were that new agent 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And we kind of put this in place and built it ourselves because we knew we were going to be in this business for a long time. And you cannot grow if you don't know your numbers, man. I think it's going to be really difficult to do it.
Yeah, I think the most powerful thing that you said there too is like knowing the numbers that work for you, because there's the most beautiful thing about this industry is how many people are willing to help in these Facebook groups, in these different groups, in these different masterminds. But scratch agents, I know one of them was talking to the community the other day, can get so caught up of like trying to compare themselves to Cyrus's numbers or Cyrus's market. And I share that because Sean and I recently had a call where we were discussing our individual 2025 goals for our agency and all that. And then the phone call got changed a little bit, Sean, if you remember when we were talking about our markets and our average premium. And mind you, Sean and I are in the same state, but we're
Yeah.
in completely different markets. His Long Island premium to my upstate premium is night and day. So his goals may make sense for what he's going after, but it's not going to make sense for me and the KPIs that I need to do to hit my goals with my premium and all that. You know, Cyrus, one thing I want you to talk to us about is I want to talk to the scratch agency owner that's either by themselves, they maybe have a VA, a service person, or whatever. They've been running the business, getting the business in. They got that whiteboard of all those leads on the wall, but now they're looking to bring on that sales producer.
Mm-hmm.
I think what it looks like you do a very good job at just finding the right people that fit that mold, right? And I'm excited to hear about finding the right people to get on your bus inside of your sales side of the organization. Talk to us about what people should be looking for, what you've had success with, maybe failures you've had along that line of just trying to find the right salespeople to get on your team.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, man. In our organization, everything gets referred to us. I've never really had to go find team members, to be honest with you, just because we're very heavy on social media from a brand standpoint in our market. Like if you don't know Jaffery Insurance in Nebraska, um, I feel like you're pretty much living under a rock, which I say that because I truly believe in our brand, and everybody should believe in what you're doing and how important it is to you. And everybody should know your brand, and your brand is going to be the most important thing from a scratch standpoint. But so that helps us. So if anybody goes to our Google, we have 500 Google reviews, 600 Google reviews. So people want to work with organizations that are successful, that have a little bit of swag, if that makes sense, right? Like you kind of have to have a little bit of swag, man. You kind of have to be, you don't need to be the bad guy by any means, but you need to build a culture where people want to be a part of, if that makes sense. So that's number one for you, man. If you want to build an organization, you got to build an office to where it's a bunch of go-getters. Well, how do you go find those go-getters, right? You don't have to find go-getters if you do things the right way and let people know you do things the right way in the right format. So they come to you. So like, honestly, man, to answer your question, we don't go find those people. Those people come to us. And when they come to me and say, hey, I want to be a part of your organization, my number one question to them is, are you in the industry? And I know if they're in the industry or not, right? I hate hiring people that are in the industry, man. I'm just not a fan of. And I can say that today, 5 years in, when I was scratch, it'd be different. I wanted to hire people that were in the industry because I'm like, it's so much easier. I don't have to train them. Like, if I have no time, right? Like, all I do now is develop team. Like, that's one of my core jobs is writing checks and obviously building a team. So I can say that because that's all I do, and we build that inside of our organization. But I today don't like hiring anybody that's been in the industry because I can tell them exactly how I want to mold them. Like our expectation is 15 to 20,000 a week in personalized premium a week. Like that's just like non-negotiable. If you don't get to 15, you're not going to be a part of my organization. If somebody comes in that's writing $3,000, they will be extremely scared. Like I don't want to be a part of that. There's no way I could do that, right? Because their bosses in the past allowed them to have an average producer life. We're not average, man. You don't come to our organization, you're not going to be average, right? So, but if I was scratch, what I would be looking for is people that want to grow, people that have the mindset that they understand that this is a business of relationships, but this is a business of talking to people, man. It's all about numbers. Like if you're good on the phones, if you know how to, because today's society, people don't come into our office. Our office is locked half of the time. It's all virtual, Zoom and all that stuff, right? That's where you're writing on the calls. So I would encourage people to find telemarketers. I would highly encourage people to find people that have been on the phones a lot. And you get a lot of them lately, man, that don't want to be there. And there's a lot of job openings right now that are happening. So find people that are really good on the phones. Find the people that are maybe we really, really enjoy hiring younger people. A lot of people don't like that. We have between 22 to 28-year-olds, specifically speaking, males in our office at least, but I'm nothing against females whatsoever, is the people that listen to a 36-year-old, which is me, because I can tell them, hey man, I need more from you. And they're not going to be hurt. But me tell them, hey, if you don't do this and this, man, this might not be an organization. So I can push them a little bit in some capacity, right? Those are the people that have worked well for us, that have an open mindset, that are very good on the phones, and then that want to make money and understand how insurance works. Meaning that if you're going to come into my organization, even when I was scratch, I told them, I said, guys, this has to be a career for you. Like, I don't want to hire somebody that within a year, like, you're gone. Like, you have to understand that the long-term capabilities of insurance, man, you can make so much more money, but the first 2 years, you have to understand you're not going to make a lot of money.
Mhm.
So if you hire a 32-year-old that's married, that his wife stays home, that's a lot of pressure on that person, because that first 2 years he's not going to make a lot of money and he can't live on $40,000. So you got to be really careful on who you're hiring, what stage of life they're in. I think that's going to be really important. So we hit home runs, probably 4 or 5 home runs between those ages and that age group. And then now it's completely different, on how we hire, because now we can pay a little bit more salary, right? I mean, now we're hiring people that are coming in and are business owners that are leaving 6-figure jobs to come work as a salesperson for us, because we put a structure for them now.
Mm. So good.
Yeah, Cyrus, I wanted to ask you too, before we get too far away from what you said earlier, is, you said the first year you stayed writing business. After the first year, you branched off to build the culture, build the team, and continue to build the referral partnerships. When do you think, and I only asked this because I had a great call with Brett Young the other day about that specific point of a scratch agency where it's like, should I continue to sell myself as the owner, or should I go and try to just build a team and, hold the current team I have accountable and all that stuff? And it was an interesting conversation because I feel like as an agency owner, I can only speak for myself, but sometimes I do get a little caught up in oh man, it would be the vision of being a leader of a lot of team members seems more exciting to me. So, and that might make me want to branch off from sales prior to then when I really should, if that makes sense. So, we just had like a really good conversation all around this topic. So, I'm curious your standpoint for the listeners. Like, and again, I'm sure everyone is completely different,
Mhm.
but I think if you're contributing as a salesperson, like, so if I'm contributing to my agency as a salesperson and I'm still responsible for over 25% of the revenue that comes into the agency, probably for
Mhm.
me, for my goals, it makes sense for me to stay on selling a little bit longer. But I'm curious for
Mhm.
you, like, what was your thought process around that whole jumping from sales to full-time leader?
Yeah, I think agency owners, specifically younger agency owners, like, please don't think about owning an agency like you're running a company. Like, I don't think of ourselves as owning an agency, because honestly, man, like, think about it. As an agency, you could go public. You can build 100 million revenue agency. You can be as big as you want. You could be the Amazon of agencies and companies and insurance. Like, that's the beauty about the independent channel, man. You can go as big as you want, or you can be as small as you want, which is 95% of agencies. So it's honestly up to you, but you cannot do what I'm telling you, the latter, which is what I want to do, which is, I want to grow. I want to build an empire. I want to build a legacy. I want to make a difference in the insurance agency. You cannot do that writing business. Like, you just cannot do that, because you will always be labeled a producer. You will always be labeled as an agent of record. And an agent of record cannot build something that you can sell for millions and billions and millions. Like, it's just not possible if that is what you want to do. So I had a core vision when I left State Farm. Like, dude, we were very, very happy at State Farm. We were very compensated really well. We had a really good life. I mean, like, I never had to leave there. the biggest reason I left was because, dude, I could never go public. I could never build something to pass on for a legacy. I could never impact 125 people in my organization today, 100 contractors, 25. Like I could never build the things that I wanted to build
Mm.
because over there. So I was stuck in that capacity. I was a producer that never left to become a company, right? And that's the beauty of this industry, man, is like you can build a company or you can be, it's nothing different than being independent or captive if you're going to be less than 5 million in premium forever. Like you're the same thing. Yeah, you could sell at one point and get something out of it, I guess, if you're not a captive versus independent. But that's the beauty of this channel, man. Is like I had an idea. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to build. I knew I wanted to build a 10,000 square feet building, state of the art, and I want to have a podcast and I want to impact so many more people. But I had those visions, the long-term visions in place 5 years later, and they all come to fruition, if not more, because I left a year and I stuck and I'm still getting back into it once in a while. I'm like, oh, maybe I should do this. This is a millionaire. He wants insurance. I need to do this. And the other part of me is like, dude, if you do it, you just literally stopped impacting 100 more people 2 years from now. So I think of that all the way. I could do this $1 million, or I can make a
Get a
podcast really
compound
quick
effect. Right.
and compound effect and affect millions of people long term. But no, you're stuck in helping a freaking millionaire because you think it's an important client that's going to bring you 10,000 in revenue. Like, so I have a passion for this because a lot of people don't, and I need everybody to do it. Most everybody to think about doing it, because the first thing you need to do is think. The second thing you need to do is action. But if you don't have a vision and think you can do it, you will never be able to do it. Like it's just not possible.
So good. So good. Look, we're going to wrap this up for time. Appreciate you taking the time and appreciate for you giving just actionable steps. Everybody go back and rewind and listen to that one because there's actionable things in there that you can write down of what do you want as an agency and what do you want as an owner and when to do those different things. But Cyrus, we haven't asked this question in a while. We're coming up on, I think, 110 episodes, and we used to ask it, I think, in the first 20 or 30, but I just feel it's good. I wanted to end with asking you one last question. If everything tomorrow morning was different for you and you were going back to starting scratch, let's in your case go back to 2019, the first thing to come to mind to you, what's one thing that you would do differently?
Okay. Whew. That's
Just a little question.
no, I really enjoy those deep questions because if I go back like the age that I'm at today and I had to start scratch again today, the mindset that I have today, and I hope people take this and actually put action behind it, you're gonna be fine. I think what you're gonna be fine. Like, don't forget what's really important, which is the family and the kids, and like your agency will be fine. There's so much money to be made on this channel. Wherever you're coming from, man, if you're an agency owner starting a scratch agency, you're not one of those guys that's like a corporate guy that wants to just make a paycheck. Like you've taken a leap of faith that a lot of people will never take, right? So you've taken the hardest step already. Don't forget what's really important, which is really the family aspect of it. And I went home at 4:30, but my relationship with my wife probably suffered a little bit because I was stressed all the time. I was just working on my laptop when the kids weren't involved because, man, you're going to be on the top of your mountain. Every mountain's different for everybody, right? Some are taller, some are shorter. You're going to be on top of a mountain, but when you're up there, man, like you got to have the most important person and the most important people in your life with you. That's more beautiful mountain than being up there by yourself. So a lot of people need to just remember that insurance, you're going to be fine, man. There's a lot of money to be made, but don't forget about what's really important in life, which is your relationship with your significant other and your kids. And a lot of people put them in the back burner because they're building a business. Well, this thing gets addicting, man. You listen to a little bit of success, you see a little bit here, a little bit there. You could really lose sight of what's really important. So that would be my biggest thing that I would remember is making her a priority still while building my legacy.
Yeah.
Love
Lots
that.
of good stuff there. Cyrus, pitch the podcast real quick, where people can just learn more about you and the impact you're making, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, Insurance Producers Podcast, man. Steven's going to be on that, and Sean would love to have you on there as well, my man. It's basically kind of like you guys, man. It's two producers. It's two people that are maybe struggling, that are average, want to be above average, or below average, want to be above average. We bring on not average people on that podcast, and they give you tips and tricks on how to become better from a producer standpoint. It's directly 2 to 3 things that we ask that are deep that producers do on a daily basis versus more agency owner specific. It's all driven towards producers and get them to get to the next level.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Well, everybody, make sure to check out Cyrus. He's got a ton of good content. I will say, check out his company's Facebook page. So that's super cool. And you talk about the organic reach that you get from people wanting to come to your organization. You take about 38 seconds looking at your Facebook feed. You know exactly why that is. So everybody, make sure to learn more about him. Cyrus, thanks again for checking us out and being here. Everybody, that's another episode of the Scratch Agency Podcast. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. But most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, and own your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.